Over the next couple of episodes, we will look at off-camera flash and how it works. Now, normally you will have your flash on your camera like this, but the problem is that the light is always coming from the front, so it makes the images look very flat and dull. Now you can tilt your flash head like this, and you can shoot your flash against the ceiling, which will give you softer light. Or you can take the head and rotate it like this and shoot the flash against a wall, and it will give you some nice side light, but it's still very limiting. I like to take the flash off the camera like this and then move it around, and when I press the button, the light must then come from that direction, and that's called off-camera flash. So let's look at 3 examples of pictures I took and how I achieved the effect. If you look at the first picture, you'll see that the light is coming from the side of the subject, and it created some nice shadows in the model, which gave the image nice mood, and it gave the image more depth. If you look at the second image, you'll see that the light is coming from the back of the image. So the flash is basically like this, and I've got a glass on top filled of crushed ice, and I put a little red heart in on the ice, a little red transparent heart. And then I basically shoot from above, and the light comes straight into the camera, and it gave a very nice effect. If you look at the third image, you'll see that the light is coming from her hands. So what I did was I put my flashes inside the hoodie's arms basically. So she's holding the lights like this, and it's creating some very nice light. So what I did was I just told her to move her head and move her arms, and every time she moves, not move her arms, move her hands. Every time she moves her hands, the light changes on her face. So I just took like a ton of pictures and chose the best of that result, and I got some very good images from that session. Right, so our goal basically is to get this flash to fire when not connected to the camera. Now, if you look at cameras, you don't need an expensive SLR to do this. You can use a small camera like this, so basically anybody can do this. But now you can't use the smallest little point and shoot cameras. You need something a little bit more expensive that has got a hot shoe like this. So you can fit a flash on there, but I won't fit this heavy flash on this little camera, because the flash I think weighs like 10 times more than the camera. So you can put your little transmitter on here, which we will look at a little later. This is basically the point of the exercise for today. And then when I press the button here, it will send out a signal to my flash. So that this is crucial that you've got this on your little point and shoot. Then you do need a manual exposure on the camera, so you can set your shutter and aperture and ISO combinations to get the correct exposure for the image, and obviously so that your flashes work correctly. Then obviously you've got your SLR, and basically all the SLRs has got a flash fitting right there, so you don't have any problems. The only thing that you might struggle with is if you're using the Sony system. You'll see that they've got a very proprietary fitting at the top, so these transmitters won't work on them, but mostly almost all the other cameras like your Pentax, I'm sure your Pentax, your Canon, Nikon, all those cameras, they fit these units perfectly. So what I do is I take this transmitter and I put it here on my hot shoe, and then I've got my receiver, which looks like this, and then I put this below the flash. And always make sure that your camera and your units and your flash, everything is turned off when you connect the units. And then once everything is connected, you can now turn all of them on. Right, so the flash is on, the receiver is on, and here I've got my transmitter. And you'll see, even if I press the button on the camera or I press the test button on the unit, it does exactly the same thing. So there you can see the flash go off every time I press the button. So this you can now move around and get some very dramatic lighting in your pictures by using it like this. Now you might think, okay, what if someone else is using the exact same system? Won't they trigger your units? Now if you look at the image, you'll see that on the transmitter, on the receiver, there is little channels. There's 4 channels on there, and you can set those channels on and off, and then everyone using the same system will be on different channels, and then more than one person can be using the same setup in the same location, and they won't trigger each other's units. Now these units are called the Cactus version 4. There was a version 2, I don't know why they skipped the version 3, But the version 4 is a very nice upgrade from the older one, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. The nice thing with these units is that they are completely wireless. And I don't like using a wired system. The reason is you're limited to how far you can go with that cable, and then obviously someone can trip over that cable. So even if you've got a 5 meter or a longer cable, someone can just run past and trip over the cable and knock your lights off or rip the socket out of your camera. So I prefer not to use cables and rather stick to these wireless units. Now they do give you very nice distance, and where this is a plus, you can obviously now put your flash on a stand right next to your subject, and that subject can be 10 meters away, and then you can be, and obviously you're 10 meters away, and then when you shoot, your flash is not trying to shoot from 10 meters away and try and lit that subject. Your flash is right next to the subject, so you can have more light when shooting outdoors, and you can obviously put the light next to the subject, so then you've got much more dramatic light. Now these units also work through walls, and I can show you how that works. I'm just going to take this transmitter off the camera and just test this thing is on. Okay, it's on. Now I'm going to walk out of the studio. Alright, now I'm going to close the door and I'm outside, and now you'll see that when I press this button, flash is going off on the inside of the studio. So now you can already think, well, what if I put this flash outside of a house on the window side and then make it look like there's sun shining? And that's possible. You just put the flash on the stand outside, and maybe they've got nice bars on the window, and when you trigger the flash, you'll see those bars reflected against a wall. You can do some very creative stuff like that. Right, so if we look at build quality, now these units are not very expensive. They're about, I think, 700-800 Rand when you buy a set like this. They are not expensive at all, and they are basically Chinese knockoffs of the more expensive pocket wizards. Now build quality on them, they are very plasticky, obviously, but I have this receiver has fallen about 1.5 meters high with something on top of it, and the entire thing cracked open, and I just sellotaped the entire unit back together, and it's still working. So that obviously proved that no matter how cheap they are constructed, they still are very strong and durable. Now the only thing that I really hate with these is that the back cover, you can see here when you look at the battery at the back, if you take the cover off, it comes off very quickly. So when you have this thing connected to your light stand and you take it out, or if you take the unit off the light stand, a lot of the times this thing pops off and it's lying on the ground. If you're shooting at the beach or in a location, maybe in a forest, you don't want to every time look for this thing. So a good idea is to just put a little bit of sticky tape on each side so the thing doesn't pop off. Okay, and if we look at reliability, there are the older version 2s. They basically look like this, and they weren't that reliable. When I was still using them on a Canon system, they misfired a lot. So you'll maybe shoot 10 pictures where you'll have 2 images and the other 8, the flash just didn't go off. On the Nikon, it was a little bit more reliable. Maybe I'll shoot 10 images and I'll have 5 shots and 5 misfires. But with the version 4s, they are very reliable. I can shoot 100 or 200 images and sometimes have maybe 1 misfire, and a lot of the times no misfires at all. I'm not sure how they will work now on the Canon. I'm sure they have fixed the reliability issues of Canon as well. But with the Nikon system, they just go every time, no problems. Right, so if we look at how these units work, they are basically very straightforward. You just put your transmitter on top of your camera's hot shoe. You put your receiver on your flash, and that's it. Very straightforward. Because obviously the only thing this thing needs to do is, when you press the button, send the signal from the camera to the flash. That's all. Now there are some little things you need to know about the settings when you use them. If you do that incorrectly, you're going to get lots of images that have black bars over them, or the entire image is just black, and you think it's a misfire, but it's actually your settings which are wrong or incorrect. So we do have a creative lighting course, which is a full day course. You can go to www.mwest.co.za. You go at the top, click on training, and then just scroll down to the bottom and you'll see the creative lighting course there. And what we basically do is we get together on a Saturday morning. It's a full day course, and it's a maximum of 4 people. because I want to make sure everyone gets personal attention and everyone gets to take pictures with their camera. So we start from the beginning with the camera. We look at these Cactus units and some other units as well, how they work, what not to do, what you can do with them, and then we start shooting. We build a studio setup when we take studio images, as well as still lifes, long exposures. So it's a day filled with fun. If you want to purchase these units, you can go to Camera World. They are located in Belleville in the Western Cape. You can visit their website at www.cameraworld.co.za, or you can contact them at the numbers on the screen. In the next episode, we are going to look at the light stands. Now, the light stand is very important because you can't always just have a friend hold everything for you. And friends complain, light stands don't. So in the next episode, we are going to look at the different light stands and which one is the best to use in which situation. And then we're going to look at the mounting. So this mounting here is basically what holds the flash for you. So I can have this flash on here. And we are going to look at a bunch of different types of stands and how you, for instance, this one can tilt like this. It's got a fitting there for an umbrella. So we're going to look at the best ones to get and how they work, because obviously when you are taking pictures, you don't always have someone to help you. You can go out and do a portrait of someone and just have your stand hold your flash, your umbrella, your softbox, whatever. So that's the mission for the next episode. So see you next time.